Stephanie, and welcome to Books and Bubbly. This is the playlist where I drink something bubbly while I talk about books that I get all bubbly about. And today I am going to be reviewing She Left by Stacey Gray. Fair warning, there are going to be spoilers in this review. So I got this from the book drop in May, and since this book is about an event called the Memorial Day Massacre, it jumped right to the top of my May to be read pile, and I'm so glad it did. This is my first title by Gray, and it definitely won't be my last, but let's go ahead and see what the book promised. 20 years ago, she survived. Now, she's fighting for her life. On the night that changed everything, Amy Brewer walked out of a house party, trudging angrily away from the friends who made her feel like she didn't belong. Within the next hour, all 5 of those friends would be dead. The Memorial Day Massacre, as it came to be called, rocked their small California community, and Amy, the girl who had walked away just in time, couldn't escape the media circus, or the guilt. 20 years later, 10 people with connections to the crime have been invited to a remote cliffside house by a journalist looking to do a story on the murders. But the group quickly learns the event is not what it seems. As a storm closes in and guests begin to die, Amy realizes there is someone in the house who knows more than they admit about what happened that night long ago, and they will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. So this was a locked room murder mystery that I really thought I had figured out at the halfway point, and was only partially correct, so it surprised me in the end, and it surprised me in a good way. And it made sense. It wasn't a random, I'm the killer, even though I barely had any screen time, haha, type scene, which I really appreciated. The breadcrumbs were there, you just had to follow them. So let's go ahead and meet our cast of characters, who I think this is an area that the book did struggle a little bit, or at least I had a lot of trouble keeping the characters straight at the beginning. The story does not waste any time in getting to the action, but that also means we meet a lot of people who are connected to other people in just a few pages. It was a little overwhelming with some of these quick introductions. There were times when I would pick this back up and I'd come across a character and I'm like, who are you? How are you related? Who were you attached to in the original massacre? What are you doing here? So our cast does start out pretty big, but does get smaller as the story progresses. Anywho, we've got Amy, who as an adult goes by her middle name of Therese to shed her reputation as a suspected killer. Therese is the one who ended up leaving the party years ago, but now she's not able to leave this little murder mystery party. She's an FBI agent now, and I did get a lot of unreliable narrator vibes from her. She's very cool, calm, and collected as an adult, and it seems to take a lot to scare or faze her. I do wish she hadn't read so disconnected at times, as it was a bit hard to invest in her character. I don't know that much about her, and we're in her head, but overall I was rooting for her to make it out of this weekend death, because on the one hand, I did believe for a long time that she was pretty innocent. We also have 2 sketchy dudes who are just terrible, and I was pretty ready for them to be removed from the story rather quickly. One is the Detective Mall, who worked on the case and supposedly pinned the crime on the wrong guy named Sean. The other sketchy guy is the former jail guard, Mike, who may have helped Sean, who is wrongfully accused, take his own life. So then we have Sonia, who is Sean's mother, who is actually the one who put together this little finger-pointing party, as she knows her son did not kill those teens, and knows that someone in the group knows something that they're not telling people. Spoiler alert. Then we have Adam, who was the brother of one of the victims. Her name was Jenna, and she was kind of the Regina George of this teen group, and was someone who bullied Therese, or Amy as she was known back then. And it's also his house that they're staying at because his family is loaded and has a bunch of properties all over the place, and so Sonia booked it to be there. Then we have Gil, who is the cousin of one of the victims, and someone who still seems to be nursing a crush on Therese. We have Joseph, who dated one of the victims, Oliver. I'm telling you, like, this is just, there's a lot of people to keep track of. We also have Wendy, who was frenemies with one of the murder victims and may have had a motivation to become a murderess herself. We also have Victor, who is a friend of one of the victims, and honestly, he tended to get on my nerves during this book, and I was kind of also just waiting for him to be, like, taken care of on the side. But we also have Lorelei, who was a witness who saw Therese leaving the house before the crime was committed, but she also wasn't the most reliable witness back in the day, and so she too may know more than she told the police. So I will say, in a way, it was different than other, like, locked room murder mysteries that I read, in that the people that were invited didn't necessarily have something to do with the original tragedy. There are some motivations, and some of these people act really suspiciously, but it was kind of a neat way to do it, as they're not directly responsible. Like, I've read other stories with a similar premise, but everyone invited back to this, like, locked room kind of had a hand in what happened. In this, some of these people are just innocent people that were invited back to this and don't necessarily make it out alive. Now, some of the people that are killed, I'm not going to shed any tears for them. And some of the innocent people are also dicks and quite annoying as well. Like I said, I wasted no pity when Mike, the jail guard, finally ate it. We also do get the reveal pretty early that Sonia lied to everyone to lure them to this weekend in the mountains, as she has evidence that might reveal who the real killer was, as she knows her son was basically, like, framed and set up and then eliminated to keep the truth buried. But then Sonia is killed before she can reveal what her new evidence, which is a sword and a bloody t-shirt. We never get to hear from her what those really mean. So I did love how Gray solved the problem of people having phones and car keys and kind of forced them to stay unconnected with the outside world in this. So already they're in kind of a remote area, so it doesn't really have a good internet connection. Actually, I don't think they have an internet connection at all. And then their phones and keys are stolen in the middle of the night and then blown up in a homemade bomb. That's definitely not something I've read in my everyday thriller books. And it was a neat callback to Sean, who's, again, Sonia's son, because he did build a bomb, and that is what tied him to the crime scene. So even though he was involved, Sonia still believes that he wasn't acting alone. So the Memorial Day massacre, a bomb exploded, but then somebody still came in and knifed the rest of the people to make sure that they died that night. Sonia does not believe that her son was involved in that. So again, taking care of their phones that way, I was like, ooh, that's a nice little callback. It's a nice little touch. And it was just an interesting way to do it, to get rid of that, like, kind of technological problem. So as we go, we start losing characters, and everyone starts pointing the finger at others in the group. I really enjoyed the pacing here, as it has a nice mix of action scenes, the doubts being cast, people acting suspiciously, and then the contemplation and looking for clues. I really never felt like I was overwhelmed, nor was I bored while reading this. And I honestly kept wondering if I was wrong with my guess as to who done it. So I'm going to say I honestly expected it to be revealed that Therese was the killer. Like, Homegirl was acting hella suspicious at times, and it felt like she wasn't fully honest, even though we're in her head. But no, it's not Therese. It's Adam. Adam killed his own sister and her friends to stop her from getting their dad's inheritance and what he saw as his birthright. He also did set up Sean to be the fall guy, and then paid Mike, the jail guard, to tie up that loose end. So simple, it could be seen as predictable, but I thought it really worked. I would almost rather have it be predictable than have it just come out of left field or not make sense or be like a character that we never really got to spend any time with and, haha, it was me the entire time off screen. Like, that's not fun. I don't care about you. I don't know you. At least Adam I got to know. I will say I also really liked the atmosphere and setting for this. Now, weather does play a big role, and at times it felt a little too convenient for my tastes. Like, the house is starting to shift and break apart as we reach the climax. Symbolic. But it did add to that feeling of being trapped, and I truly could picture the setting and this mansion in the woods. There's enough detail to bring the setting and the characters to life, but not so much that I turned it into a drinking game where I take a shot every time I see an adjective. Looking at you, Robert Galbraith, also known as J.K. Rowling. You gotta cool it on the adjectives. I really did feel that Gray did a really great job of balancing enough description with also letting us as the readers fill in the blanks. So all in, I really liked this, and I'm giving it 4 stars. It's a really good locked room mystery that doesn't rely on too many twists or like gotcha moments. It's a pretty simple setup, and I really appreciated that. I am looking forward to seeing what Gray comes out with next. But if you have any recommendations for other locked room mysteries, please leave your recs in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching Books and Bubbly.